Hey everybody, my name is Ryan, and I'm currently developing my own TCG in Unity called Global Conflict. Join me for the next few minutes while I go over all the steps that I took to get from this to this. So to get the story started, we got to go way back, all the way to the late 90s when I first started playing Pokemon TCG and it had just come to America. So let's go ahead and get started. So like most kids back then in the late 90s, I was hooked on Pokemon. I had the Game Boy game, watched the cartoon after school, collected the cards, even played with the cards, played in tournaments, things like that. And little did I know, that love for trading card games, specifically Pokemon, would carry on for much of my life, including now to this day. But of course, there were other games that I were into, such as Red Alert, Command & Conquer, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, who didn't play that? Battlefield, Bad Company 2. When I started developing Global Conflict TCG, you can see that I draw from each of these games that I just listed, especially from Pokemon, obviously, but I take a little bit from Red Alert, you can see here, with the card names and the name of the units and things like that. And then I draw some inspiration from Modern Warfare. You can really see that evident in the main menu screen. And then I also draw from Battlefield and just some of the classes and the way the whole class system is set up in Battlefield. I even take inspiration from movies and TV shows that I enjoy watching, such as Frank Fortress here, who's modeled after Frank Castle from The Punisher, or Tex Westwood, who's a knockoff Clint Eastwood from the Western movies. I also have to mention that a major reason why I'm making this game is for a couple reasons. Number one, the original Pokemon TCGO online app is no longer active, which was one of my favorite apps to play. And not to rag on Pokemon too much, but I just feel like the last few years the meta has really changed. And with my game, I'm really looking to take it back to the older style of play that Pokemon used to be. I first got the idea to make my own trading card game in early 2021. I thought about how cool it would be to make my own card game with my own type of meta, my own constraints and rules and game style. It's just a thought that I couldn't shake. After weeks of brainstorming and jotting down notes inside of my Apple Notes app, I was finally ready to attempt to make my own trading card. Being the cheapskate that I am, I decided I didn't want to spend any money on any type of software, so I went to the first and most obvious answer for photo editors that's free: GIMP. My first couple attempts in GIMP to make a trading card were pretty terrible, if I'm being honest. But it wasn't a total waste, as I learned a few tips and tricks and eventually found out that I was going to need a different software that helped me create cards more efficiently. Alright, I promise that'll be the last time I use the whip crack. Affinity actually has 3 different softwares: Affinity Publisher, Affinity Designer, and Affinity Photo. At that time during 2021, they were selling all 3 softwares for $75, and it's easily the best money I've spent for this project by far. It was also at this time that I started to get my first taste of Unity. I was at a point where I had to figure out the card art for my cards, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm not an artist. So what I ended up resorting to was Cinti assets inside of the Unity game engine. So armed with some character assets and a fresh Unity project, I set out to make some characters, make some battlefields and some set scenes, things like that to put on my cards. You can see them in the next couple clips now. So now we can move his leg up. There we go. And then we'll take his shin bone, we'll move that down. So there we go. Oh, he broke his leg. Sorry. Wrong way. There we go. So he's gonna like put his hands over his face, right? So he's like, oh no, I'm not seeing anything. Or we can go like, quit hitting yourself, quit hitting yourself. Using the Affinity software allowed me to turn my cards from this to this. One last note about Affinity Publisher. It has a great feature that allows you to make master templates, which could be easily used to make different type of templates for different type of cards. I highly recommend it if you're making a trading card game. Also, if you're using Photoshop, there is a Photoshop equivalent called Illustrator. So at this point, I won't go too much more into the physical card aspect of the game, but just know I actually did take these to print, printed them out in 3 different print runs, and finally have a successful looking card that you can see on the screen. If you are looking to print out trading cards, highly recommend using the Game Crafter, and at some point I will have the physical cards for sale. So at this point, it had been about a year since I started work on Global Conflict. While I was happy with my physical card game, I was still left with wanting something more. After a few months in Unity tutorial hell on YouTube, I finally emerged with enough courage to start my own project and actually try to get this TCG off the ground. So I tried to be like a normal game dev and learn C# for Unity, but I'm going to be honest with myself, ain't nobody got time for that. I did manage to figure out drag and drop using C# scripting, but that was about the extent of it, and like I said, I just ran out of time and didn't feel like doing it. So after another month in YouTube hell, watching tutorials, I stumbled upon a channel called Steven Scott Day Games. On this channel, Steven goes over mainly using Playmaker inside of Unity, which, if we know what Playmaker is, takes the place of C# scripting. And also by proxy, I found Playmaker for Unity's YouTube channel and went on a YouTube binge session. And let me tell you, if I never found Steven's channel or Playmaker's channel or the Playmaker asset, I don't think I'd be here today showing you this video. So thanks to them. Playmaker is truly a godsend. There's literally no way I would have gotten as far on this project as I have so far without Playmaker. So you might be asking, what is Playmaker? In a nutshell, Playmaker is a visual scripting software. It allows you to create finite state machines, and in most cases can be used to take the place of C# scripting. The first build of Global Conflict that I attempted to make was a 2D style card game. I actually spent quite a few months working on this game, learned a lot during the process, learned a lot about visual scripting, but overall, just really wasn't the visual style that I was looking for. If you're interested in seeing what I learned working on the 2D project, you can go back through my channel and see some of the videos that I posted during that time. But fair warning, the videos aren't that great. And honestly, even nowadays, they're really still not that great. But if you're interested in Playmaker or just learning 2D or Unity or just anything about card games and Unities, might be a good place for you to stop by. Even though I hadn't finished my 2D project, I felt that I had learned enough that I was ready to take on 3D and finally try to set out to build the game that I truly wanted. Now with a fresh 3D project, first order of business was to figure out 3D drag and drop. Obviously, I had no idea what I was doing, so it probably took me way longer than it really should have. But I eventually figured it out and ended up making a video to explain how I did it. Now with that obstacle out of the way, it was time for me to move forward and start making the other systems and parts of the game that needed to be made. Everything from game managers, card slots, deck slots, card prefabs, card managers, things like that. And over a course of a few months, and trial and error, I managed to build all those systems and get the game to where it's at today. Even in that time, managed to build my UI system, game menu, save system, and all the other stuff that you need to actually access the game. And if you're interested in that stuff, I also have videos for those. Okay, everybody, we're finally at the last chapter of this video, and if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. And I figure it might be a good time, since we're going to talk about the Steam page, if you guys can. If you're even remotely interested in this game, please click the link down in the description and wishlist this game on Steam if possible. If you're remotely interested, I'd really appreciate it. Give me a chance to try to bump up the algorithm a little bit. Also, too, if you've gotten this far and you've gotten anything out of it, or you just enjoyed the content, maybe, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. So at this point, I felt like I had made enough progress on the game that I was able to make a Steam page and actually put up some screenshots. I don't have a trailer yet, but it's coming soon. And also on the demo front, been working on that, and once I get the game to a playable state, demo won't be far behind. Alright, we're at the end of the video now, and if you made it this far, I want to leave you with one piece of advice before we actually end the video, just as my gift to you. And this might be some advice you've heard before, but I'm going to say it again. The most important thing that I've learned throughout this entire 2 years is not working in Affinity, working on cards and photos, working in Unity, Playmaker. It's not any of that. The most important part, or thing that I've learned, is just staying persistent. Day after day, working on my project, even if it's the littlest amount of time or the littlest task where I only spend 10 to 15 minutes, even just that small task or that little bit of progress counts. And if you keep doing that and you keep stacking up those little wins, the little bits of progress, and then you'll have the days where you do more, a couple hours, 2, 3, 4 hours of work. You keep doing that over time. Eventually, you're going to finish the project. That's what I do with my project, and that's how I've gotten to this point. It's just every day, just a little bit after a little bit after a little bit until I've gotten to this point. So I hope you got a lot out of this video. I hope that you enjoyed what you saw so far, and we'll see you on the next video.